right. Well, it is a pleasure to be here to recognize some of the city's true unsung heroes, the men and women of the DOT Roadway Repair and Maintenance Division who do extraordinary work for this city every day. I have to tell you, these are folks who work very, very hard, who have the pleasure of knowing that their work makes a very tangible impact on people's lives. You make people's lives better every day. You make people's lives safer. And the people who benefit don't necessarily get to meet you and say thank you. But we're here today to say thank you because you've done something great for this city. Now to our friends in the media, prepare for some amazing facts that will astound you. This effort to repave a huge swath of the FDR started in July and finishes tomorrow night. They've done all this in less than 6 months, and this crew and crews like them have literally done something that has never been done before. They approached the FDR as a single unit. They went at the whole thing simultaneously in less than 6 months. And what they did is extraordinary, repaving 35 lane miles. Look at every one of those lanes out there. Think about a whole mile of one lane, 35 lane miles, all in less than 6 months. That's never been attempted before in the history of this city, certainly never been achieved before. These folks did it along with their colleagues, and for so many New Yorkers now, the drive around this city is better because of this extraordinary effort. 35 lane miles. Would you like a visualization? It's as if you created a road from Co-op City in the Bronx to Tottenville in Staten Island. If you went that whole distance, a single road, that's how far what these folks did, that's how far it would be. And here's an even more remarkable fact. This project came in ahead of schedule and under budget. Let's give them a round of applause for that. Now, this was made possible by an investment of $7.1 million by the city, and we made this a priority. It's obviously one of our most intensely used highways, one of the gateways to the city for people from all over the world. It was very, very important that this highway be made better for everyone, and this crew and other crews did it now. And the crew right here, part of an 85-member crew, together they have more than 1,000 years of experience. Don't feel old, everyone. It's okay. 1,000 years of experience that they brought to this effort, which is why they were able to do it so quickly and so well. This is not easy work. Let me affirm, it is not easy work. It's long hours. This started in the heat of summer. You can imagine what it's like doing the work now as it's starting to become winter. Doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter how cold or hot, they're out there. And they have to worry all the time about the traffic moving past them, especially on the overnight hours when visibility is low. We are focused on the safety of the people who do this work. We want to make sure each and every one of them gets home to their families each day. So a very big part of what DOT does is ensuring the safety of the people who make our roads better. And it's always important we send a message to drivers in this city. Whenever you see a work crew, slow down. When you see people working on the road, slow down. Remember, there are people doing a lot for all of us. They have families they need to get home to. We also help drivers to know when roads are going to be paved so they can make adjustments. There's paving updates provided to the media and to the public. And we make sure that any motorist who violates the rules in a work zone pays for it. We've increased the fine for motorists who speed in work zones, and we will aggressively enforce those laws. So we're here today to talk about the very good work that this group has done, necessary work, courageous work that makes the lives of hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers better every year. And I just want to say something simple to folks here on behalf of almost 8.5 million New Yorkers. Thank you for the tremendous work you've done. Just to give you a sense of the magnitude, 150,000 drivers travel this road every day. And they all are feeling the difference of this work. And this is one part of a much bigger effort to resurface 2,500 lane miles over the next 18 months all over this city. 2,500 lane miles. Would you like a visualization of that? That's as if DOT is resurfacing 2,500 lane miles all over the city. That's as much distance as going from New York City to Las Vegas. That is how much they're doing in the next year and a half. We're investing $1.6 billion in city funds over the next decade to resurface roads all over the city. And it goes without saying, the money's important, but the people power is what matters the most. These good men and women who make the work happen every day. Just quickly in Spanish, tengo el honor de reconocer hoy a un grupo de héroes anónimos, los trabajadores de la Unidad de Reparación de Autopistas de nuestro Departamento de Transporte. Ellos han trabajado duro por meses para renovar todo el FDR Drive. Les damos gracias por esta gran labor que tendrá un impacto muy positivo en las vidas de todos los neoyorquinos. Y reafirmamos nuestro compromiso con mantener altos niveles de seguridad para todos los trabajadores viales. With that, the woman who leads the operation, and she does it with great energy, great focus. When Polly and I talked about making this happen, she knew it was a daunting task, but she brought a great can-do attitude to it with all the leadership of DOT. They said they knew it would be tough, but they were going to get it done. And Polly, you were good to your word. Our Transportation Commissioner, Polly Trottenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't be more proud, just like you, to be standing here today in front of our DOT roadway crew with some of our elected officials who are partners. Looking at has really been a remarkable paving season that is actually going to make roads smoother and safer for millions of New Yorkers. And as you said, Mr. Mayor, resurfacing the FDR was no easy feat. I think we figured out it at least had been 50 years, if ever, that anyone had tried to resurface it comprehensively. It is one of the 10 busiest roadways in the city. As you pointed out, well over 150,000 vehicles a day travel it. It has many complexities, weight restrictions, height restrictions, mixture of city-state ownership. It took a lot of cooperation, coordination, and really good planning. And this amazing team and the leadership here helped make it happen. But none of it could have been possible without your leadership, Mr. Mayor. We certainly had many conversations about it. You provided the leadership, the support, and the resources. So we couldn't be more grateful to you as well. And the support you gave us, an additional $242 million to do 500 extra lane miles in the next 2 years, is going to be the highest amount of resurfacing the city has seen in 25 years. And just to mention a few of the other roads that the funds have helped us resurface: Fordham Road and East Gun Hill Road in the Bronx, Arthur Kill and Bay Street in Staten Island, Hillside and Main Street in Queens, Kings Highway and Coney Island Avenue in Brooklyn, as well as the Avenue of the Americas and West Broadway here in Manhattan. Next year, we will be gearing up for an even bigger season of work. We have a lot of big arterials planned, including Bruckner Boulevard and Arthur Avenue in the Bronx, Richmond Hill Road and Victory Boulevard in Staten Island, 108th Street and Francis Lewis Boulevard in Queens, and Ocean Avenue and North Conduit Ave in Brooklyn and Queens. Another street, Mr. Mayor, you had pointed out to me needed some work.
I did.
We'll also be hitting the east and the west sides of Manhattan, resurfacing 11th Ave in Lexington. I'd also like to thank our partners in the City Council who supported this project and helped us with the resources, our partners at State DOT, including Commissioner Matt Driscoll and Regional Director Sonia Pichardo, and our colleagues at the Department of Environmental Protection who helped with the drainage work. FDR was a unique challenge. It took over 35,000 tons of asphalt, crews working, as the mayor pointed out, in all kinds of conditions on 72 nights. They did a really, really remarkable job. And as the mayor pointed out, they were able to get this job done ahead of schedule. So I'd like to take a moment to recognize our roadway repair and maintenance crew and their Deputy Commissioner, Galileo Orlando, who spearheaded this project, who figured out how to get it done. And the 80-plus men and women who are represented here today who worked tirelessly on this project. I think they all did an incredible job. I also want to take a second just to thank the DOT outreach team, because as you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, we were out there 72 nights because I think we had done such a good job of alerting the public. we basically got no complaints about traffic, which for us is pretty rare. So, and I just want to close by saying, you know, the DOT does a lot of work all over the city, and I have to say this has been one of the few projects where I get thank yous from everybody, from the mayor himself, from the police commissioner, to many, many regular New Yorkers. So it's really been a great project to do. Thank you.
As Polly said, we get great support in all these efforts from the City Council that was extremely enthusiastic about the focus on repaving. We want to thank you for supporting the resources to make it work. First, the Chair of the Transportation Committee in the Council, Councilmember Adonis Rodriguez.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Right? It's nice to know that New Yorkers should know that there's leadership in this city, where not only we put the money, but also with the great men and women doing the work. They are delivering projects on time and saving money. You know, that's not everyday news in any major project at the state or city level. Usually projects are more expensive when they are completed. So here we have the great news that New Yorkers should know that as we were able to put the money together with the great leadership with the mayor and the speaker today after Thanksgiving, the great news is that this project has been completed. And knowing that there's a lot of money there, there's millions of dollars also being invested with the great job of the men and women, the DOT, they will continue reversing the street in New York City. This is something that will help drivers. It will make the streets safer. It will improve the efficiency in our city. But most important also, we have the great men and women doing the work. And today, the awareness that we are doing is, or the education awareness, is to send a message to all the drivers citywide. Slow down. When there's any work zone, with the men and women that work in the road, please slow down so that we can go home safe and also the workers can be safe. Para nosotros es muy importante saber que tenemos un liderazgo en esta ciudad que ha trabajado para asegurarse de que este proyecto se termine a tiempo y que ahorró dinero. Solamente posible con un gran líder en esta ciudad como es el alcalde de Blasio y la comisionada de DOT. Gracias.
Thank you, Adonis. And as Polly said, she's gotten well-deserved compliments on behalf of the whole department for their great work. I bet Councilmember Kalos has had more than one of his constituents note and appreciate the improved ride on the FDR, and we're here in his district, and thank you for all the support. Councilmember Ben Kalos.
150,000 people are going to use the FDR every day and appreciate the ride, including myself and the mayor. We just used it to come up here from City Hall. And improving people's commutes is one of the best things we can do as a city. I want to thank Mayor de Blasio, Commissioner Trottenberg, Commissioner Forgione from Manhattan. But most importantly, I want to thank the workers. I want to thank our brothers and sisters at DC 37, our operating engineers at Local 14 and 15, who did this work, who did it on time, ahead of schedule, and under budget. Because when we do things as a city in-house, we build it better as a city, and this is a model we should continue to do as much as we can in-house, because our city workers can do it better, and they are paid a living wage, they are paid benefits, and we take good care of them. So just thank you for all of your hard work, and as the mayor and others have said, one thing we can do to make sure that our workers do a good job is treat them with courtesy and respect. It means not honking at them because they're doing their jobs. It means being safe, going slowly through those construction zones. And with regards to how happy folks are, people are excited. They're really happy that they're going to have a smoother commute in the morning. But one big thing, when we're talking about construction projects, people want it built now, they want it built fast, and they want it done yesterday. And this is a great model for getting things done quickly in a 6-month timeline where you focus on one specific area, get it done quickly, and then go to the next place. And occasionally people will complain about construction noise, especially when it's happening, but they prefer to see it at night. They prefer to get the notices, and DOT was amazing about letting the community know ahead of time. And anytime somebody said, oh, there was a loose plate or what have you, we're able to fix it for them usually that day. So when it comes down to it, DOT's been an amazing partner and has been fixing the FDR in the whole and in the small part every step of the way. So thank you to DOT and thank you to our workers.
All right, we're going to take questions on this topic, and then we'll go to off topic. On this topic first, Michael.
Mr. Mayor, when did you first approach your commissioner about the repaving project? And I was wondering why the FDR was chosen as the first the pilot.
Well, you know, we had for a long time, I think many of us had heard complaints about the FDR. I certainly experienced it constantly, seeing how just wasn't in an acceptable state of repair for the greatest city in the world. And, you know, as you heard, one of the very busiest highways in all of New York City, and one that is one of our gateways. And I think it was important to really put a focus on it. So I think the conversation probably started late last year, if I remember correctly, and going into the budget process. I like to give Polly reports from where I am around the city of what I'm seeing, and so I certainly call her when I hit the bump in the road. I tell her exactly where it is so she can follow up and call her from different places. But this has been one I think we had the most complaints about and the most concern about for a long time. On this topic, FDR, yep.
So with the repaving, how does that kind of help east side mitigate flooding and other
How's it?
flooding and other concerns because of the climate change?
The flooding concerns, you mean on the FDR? Let's let Polly speak to that.
Well, as I had mentioned, one of our partners in this project was the Department of Environmental Protection, and one of the things we did is we also fixed all the catch basins on the FDR Drive that had not also been replaced, we think, for an equal number of decades. So we're thinking that's going to help a lot with the drainage and the flooding problems on the FDR. They've been great partners on that.
On this topic.
So, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
You can do it, Rich. come out from concealment. Show yourself.
So, the route to and from City Hall and Gracie Mansion wouldn't have anything to do with the fact that this was the project.
Oh, I've certainly experienced it, but again, we've heard complaints about this one for a long, long time, and it's, again, for one of our very busiest roads, absolutely was well beyond the point that it needed a major overhaul. And I think that's what is part of this entire concept of this repaving program. We're going to go to the most important roads in each borough. As you heard Polly delineate them, the ones we've done this year, the ones we're doing next year. This is a very large-scale repaving program, and in the case of the FDR, an unprecedented one, because it's one of the most important quality-of-life issues to New Yorkers, and of course, it's a matter of safety as well. So this is exactly what government should be focused on. When I was out in Staten Island on the South Shore with Polly a few months back, very different weather. This is one of the things people there said was one of their number one concerns, that they had roads that were dangerous and constantly are being jostled in their cars, and if government could do one thing, they wanted us to repave the roads right. So we're really focused on repaving and getting it right all over the city. In the back. Define exactly what. Go ahead. Who's got it?
Yeah, we went Brooklyn Bridge up to 125th.
Yes, Michael.
Just following up, this is probably the road you take most often now as mayor. You, back in your driving days as public advocate, wonder if you could talk a little bit about some of your frustrations as a driver going up and down the FDR?
Well, I would say so. When I drove myself, which I remember fondly, I didn't look. I've delineated in previous gatherings the roads from hell, like the Cross Bronx, which still is burned into my memory. So it wasn't as bad as that, because yeah, you got jostled around on the FDR, but at least you got somewhere. But no, this was always a bad road in terms of potholes, bumps, etc. But I do think it got worse in recent years, and I noticed that increasingly over the years. Before holding this office. This one, I think, is partly because of the incessant wear and tear. And as Polly said, I think before the assumption was you could only go out a little bit of it at a time. So some parts got really, really bad. And when Polly and I started talking about it, I offered the concept I often say to my commissioners: what's it going to take to get it right? And to her credit, she and her team went back and said, look, there is a way If we do everything at once in a very concentrated fashion, we can actually change the reality fundamentally, but it's going to cost real money. And I have to say, it was money very well spent. Last call on this, and then we will get ready for off-topic. Yes, please, in the back. Let's ask Polly Trottenberg.
Well, welcome to the complexity of New York City. Harlem River Drive is a state-owned roadway, but I'm happy to say I think the partnership we've had here, we are in a good dialogue with the state right now about working together on some of their roadway pieces as well, so stay tuned on that one.
Okay, last call on FDR and repaving. Going once, going twice. Okay, off topic it is. Off topic. Yes, Marcia.
Mr. Mayor, there's the school special prosecutor.
Louder.
School special prosecutor is investigating charges of grade fixing at DeWitt Clinton High School, which, as you know, is one of the recovery schools. Your reaction to that, and do you think that, what else could be done to help this failing school?
Well, two things. My Department of Education initiated that investigation. And that investigation will proceed promptly, and if we find any wrongdoing, there will be very serious consequences for the individual involved. The Renewal Schools effort is a major priority for us. We put a lot of resources into it. What we're finding in Renewal Schools is increased attendance. We saw improvement in test scores from the previous year to last. We see the beginnings of real turnaround, but it's going to take a lot of work. We said from the beginning this would be a very tough effort, but worth it. But anytime we see a problem, we're going to go right at it. If that requires investigation, we'll do it.
Just to follow up, do you think that the principal felt pressure to pass more people because
there's an investigation? I don't know the details. But again, the Department of Education initiated that investigation. If we see anything that concerns us, we're going to look into it immediately. Look, we are taking aggressive steps, including our commitment to 15,000 units of supportive housing. The fact is this city is dealing with a very tough challenge, but is taking it head on and making the changes we need to address it. I refer you to an editorial in AM New York today that I think spoke volumes about the fact that the city is doing what is necessary to address this crisis. The state needs to step up now. The city initiated 500 new safe haven beds to get people off the streets and get them to the drug treatment and to the mental health services they need. The city put $1 billion more into helping people get out of shelter and doing the outreach work we need to keep people from going into shelter to begin with, plus $1 billion on top of that in capital money for supportive housing that we recently announced. The city has gotten 20,000 people out of shelter and into housing in the last year and a half. That is handling the crisis. Now, it is a big problem, and it will take a long time to address it more fully, but I've said we're going to turn the tide on this. It's going to be person by person, because literally each homeless person has their own challenge, and we're going to go at each person, get them to housing one by one, get them to mental health services, get them to substance abuse support. The City of New York is doing this work. It's time for the state to step up.
The governor's office is personally criticizing your management skills.
You know, that's political posturing. It's just as simple as that. The City of New York is doing the work. It's time for the state to step up.
Regarding what happened in Colorado Springs over the weekend, some of the officials from Planned Parenthood have said that it was toxic rhetoric by GOP presidential candidates that is partly responsible for what happened there. Do you agree with those officials and their statements?
I would say it's two things at once. The toxic rhetoric is very bad for this country, and I think is unfair, doesn't represent the reality of Planned Parenthood, which is an extraordinary organization that this administration supports fully. I think the individual involved obviously is someone with real mental health problems who committed an act of violence that was unacceptable by every measure. So I think we need to address the toxic environment because of what it means for policy, not because of an individual who did something horrendous. I think we need to address it because we have an attempt right now to undermine Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood is necessary for the health and well-being of women all over this country.
Looks like New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, who you've had some recent exchanges with, just picked up a major endorsement in New Hampshire of the Manchester Union leader. A, do you think it's a sign that he has momentum? And B, what do you think that sort of says about the current state of the Republican?
I'm not a political pundit. I think it's very early in this campaign. That's the only thing I'd say. People should not overrate anybody's momentum or movement at this point.
The Queen's arsonist.
No, I don't have an update on that, but we'll get you later. Look, and when I was a city council member, I worked with community boards very closely, and obviously the borough board in Brooklyn. They provide important feedback. They provide perspective that helps us as we're shaping our plans. But everyone knows in this city, community boards are part of a much bigger process that includes the city council, city planning commission, mayor's office. So those advisory votes are meaningful, but they're not the final word. And we also know that community boards are often negatively, when it comes to anything that might be new development in the community, often negatively disposed. That's not a news flash. We know that. What we're talking about is a different approach to development, and I don't blame people who haven't seen it before for having tough questions. But we're talking about demanding much more from developers, creating much more affordable housing than has ever been created before, protecting people in communities with legal services to stop eviction and harassment. It's a whole new approach. And of course, there'll be doubting Thomases at first, but I think over time we'll be able to show people it works. Okay, we're coming around here. Rich.
Mr. Mayor, your health commissioner has put out a new thing about salt, I guess, trying to keep people...
A new thing about salt, Rich?
Well, I didn't cover it.
Surely, Rich, there's another word you could use.
Warnings about
there we go.
How about your salt use?
I thought you'd become a millennial for a moment there. No. What about my salt usage? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, it is.
I eat too much salt. I, too, have sinned, Rich. I have to say, in my ancestral cuisine, there's a lot of salt. And I was brought up with a lot of salt. And luckily, Charlene is very, very adamant about reducing the use of salt. So my hand has been slapped many times. I've been stared down. The salt shaker's been moved to the other side of the table. I'm on the pathway to becoming a better human being.
Residents at Arthur Avenue canceled their Christmas tree lighting last week because they were concerned about homeless area. What do you say to them? It says the homeless problem.
Yeah, I think there's more to that story than was originally reported from what we're hearing. I think there were other considerations that went into it. But the bottom line is, whenever there's a quality of life problem, we're going to go at it. That's the 4-8 precinct. They've been deeply involved with the merchants along Arthur Avenue and with the bid. I asked some very specific questions about that situation. It comes down to 3 homeless individuals along the Arthur Avenue strip who have been a problem. And they're known to the police, they're known to the Department of Homeless Services, and they're being addressed in a very forthright manner.
Mr. Mayor, there's a guy dressed up as Santa Claus outside of Macy's. This is kind of in the same vein of quality of life. I guess he's charging tourists $5 a post for photos, kind of in the same vein as some of the Times Square hustlers. Just wondering if you're aware of it and if it's causing you any concern.
Look, if it's one individual and he's not harassing people or being menacing or breaking the law in any way, that's one individual. But any violation of law will be dealt with by NYPD very aggressively. Thanks, everyone.